Scanning for audio.
Welcome to another Tin Dog podcast. I just want to thank everyone for the feedback, the incredibly positive feedback I've received about the last Tin Dog podcast when I talked about the Doctor's 507 regenerations. It's really nice to know that I've created a bit of a talking point with the idea that the Doctor that we now have isn't the 11th Doctor, but is indeed a first Doctor for a whole new universe. A Doctor created by Amy, who can go on forever, rather than the Doctor that we know and love, who sadly died when the universe ended. So, if you're bored of Doctor Who, now's the time to stop what you're doing, put all your pens down, and just give up on the series, because any Doctor Who that happens after this point is of course a brand new series, and has nothing whatsoever to do with the original Doctor Who. Okay, that's possibly exaggerating just a touch. Let's talk about Sarah Jane Smith Adventures 4.5. Lost in Time.
Ready? Always.
This is a time window. Find the objects and they will bring you home.
Is this Buckingham Palace?
It is the Tower of London.
What are you looking at?
Germans.
I see it, you're right.
I'm not a spirit.
Ta-da!
8 o'clock, that's it.
Good morning.
Must be what that junk shop bloke's after.
It's coming from in there.
If Sarah Jane and her friends do not return soon, they'll be trapped in the past.
Before she dies.
On the face of it, Lost in Time is the sort of kids' TV programme like The Tomorrow People or maybe Time Slip that you used to get in the glorious childhood of our youth. And that's the youth of the people who are just a little bit older than your parents. But you can also look at it another way. This is the Key to Time light. One 45-minute story, okay, spread over 2 episodes over 2 days, but let's face it, it's one story, where 3 segments of some sort of metal that exists in some sort of time stream. It's a bit vague, but that's fine. Have to be gathered throughout space and time, alright. Time, because, we've only got an hour. Brought together in order to save the universe by some mysterious figure, who indeed has a bird, although in this case not sat on his head. The bird, however, goes by the name of Captain, and could indeed be a future incarnation of the face of Bo. Although that truly is a little bit, made up for television. The basic premise is our 3 heroes are spread throughout time, or history of Earth at least, in order to gather 3 bits of magic metal, 3 magic items, all using their own companions from the time, bring them all together, save the day, save the world, move on. But it's the execution of the story that truly has this head and shoulders above your normal Sarah Jane Smith fare. I actually love this story. It fits in with the whole Doctor Who ethos of education, as well as the entertainment factors, because I know I had to go off and look up the Queen of 9 Days straight afterwards, so I'm sure a few of the viewers would have done so as well. Yes, Nazis invading England in order to use some sort of magic item brought forth by Hitler's Special Occult Research Division does have a certain Hellboy feel to it, but I'm sure we can let that one go. Doctor Who has stolen from the best after all, and it's not really a problem. But the strongest story perhaps is that of Sarah Jane herself, when she travels back through time, and there will be spoilers, and meets a 1910 ghost hunter. She's portrayed by a particularly fantastic actress whose name I will have to check up and see if she's been anything else, because she looks so damn familiar. I'd be remiss if I said it didn't have a certain sapphire and steel feel, but that's hardly a bad thing. Hell, if Torchwoods were this good, more people would watch. Of course, all 3 are tempted to change history, or indeed must change history and make some nice decisions. The relationship between Clyde and Rani is growing with every episode, as they both come to terms with the feelings they have for each other. The acting is spotless. The extras may only have a few lines each, but they deliver them so well that there isn't a weak show here. I think that next week's show, The Death of Sarah Jane, will really have to be going in order to beat this one. So suspend your disbelief, put your brain in neutral, and watch it. Now, I think it's time to talk about Cyberman 2 from Big Finish.
Global stability across Earth has returned. Confusion and unrest following the abortive reprisal mission sent against the android menace in the Orion Zone has had far-reaching effects.
Checkpoint 6582, Midlands Collab.
Yeah, I know the drill.
I'm trying to isolate the militant groups, excise them. Give me more time.
All units converge and neutralize target.
I can discredit the rebel underground. I can...
We will progress. Earth will be remade as a new Mundus. The cyber race will rise again.
Cyberman 2 is a boxed set, or a set of 5 discs to download, from Big Finish. As the name implies, there was a Cyberman 1. Cyberman 2 came out about a year ago, and I've only just got around to listening to the whole thing, almost back to back, while tidying out the garage, over a period of a few weeks, listening to 2 stories per session. Cyberman 2 itself is excellent. It can be listened to alone, but to get the truest enjoyment from this box set, you really need to look at the history of what's gone before. And, like I said by the name implication, there is a Cyberman 1. Not only is Cyberman 1 also not the beginning of these stories, but let's start at the very beginning with Paul McGann's second story, The Sword of Orion.
This is better than I'd hoped for. Can't see any damage. I bet the weapon systems are in perfect condition. Those squaddies in the ride will give anything for high-class equipment. We are gonna make a killing.
Doctor! Where are you? It's gone again.
No luck then. I thought for a moment you were going to cry out for help.
Oh, how can you be so annoying?
Anyone hear that?
Negative. What have you got, Kelsey?
Something that sounds not nice.
What's that?
What?
Stay where you are, Doctor.
You saw something?
Yes. Yes, something moving on the deck. Over there.
Doctor?
It's gone now.
Why has my revival been delayed?
The Sword of Orion is a remake of one of the audio-visuals, with the story tweaked, updated, and definitely with a Cyberman in it this time. Let's not bother with the whole how the audio-visuals became Big Finish, because that's another podcast for another time. Suffice to say that in this particular story, this is Sword of Orion, the background is set up that will echo throughout the next 10 years worth of Doctor Who and spin-off. Basically, the humans have created some creatures called androids. Yes, it's basically Blade Runner, and with a touch of Terminator. These robots aren't particularly chuffed with the way they've been treated, would like some independence, and thus begins the Orion War. Of course, we have the line from Blade Runner with Roy Batty's speech, which probably gave rise to the use of Orion in the first place. What it is to be human lies at the heart of all Cybermen stories, and what it means to be human also lies at the heart of the android tales that we hear here. The androids are a great, unsung Doctor Who creature. Now, whether they go on to become the Mavellans, I really don't want to go into or even be bothered with. But the basic background is this. The humans are at war with the androids. The Cybermen are hanging around, waiting for the war to happen so that they can step in at the last minute and win. The humans are aware of the Cybermen and decide that they want to use the cyber technology to try and win the war, becoming more like their foe. But everyone knows that the minute you start tinkering with cyber technology, it ends up taking over, and you end up with Cybermen on your hands. So, because it's Doctor Who, the Doctor defeats the Cybermen and everyone goes on their way. It's not for several years later that the whole story is picked up again in Cyberman 1, where the humans are desperately trying to get their hands on cyber technology in order to try and win the war. The androids have long memories and know exactly what the Cybermen are, and realise how truly enormous the threat is. They want to take out the Cybermen, and the first series is basically the West Wing in space. It's tremendously well written, and was recorded primarily live. There are many reasons for this. One of them was time constraints. Another one was in order for the director and writer to give themselves new challenges to see if it just could be done. Well, as far as this review is concerned, it genuinely could be done. And the 4 stories were released 1 month at a time. They kept you gripped. They were truly amazing. They can be downloaded, I think, as part of a sale on Big Finish. And, as an added bonus, they have no Doctor in them. I say added bonus because once you remove the Doctor from the stories, all bets are off. You don't know who the good guys are, who the bad guys are. Everyone has their own motivation. What it is to be human, of course, exists in the background. But you have the political intrigues and machinations of all of the characters. You really need to keep your ear in order to work out exactly who's who, what's what, and who wants what out of who. There are gigantic space battles. But anyone can, and sometimes does, die. Some people who you think are heroes who will go on to save the day simply aren't. And some people who you think are villains, well, let's not spoil things. People are who they seem to be, and then again, they're not. But that was Cyberman 1, finishing with a gigantic conclusion that really meant we didn't need a Cyberman 2. Except we enjoyed it too much. Cyberman 2 was not recorded in the same way, and it was also not released in the same way, because it came after another Doctor Who story, this time starring the 7th Doctor.
As a guest of the Argentia...
A guest? What's wrong, Magus Riga? Does the word prisoner stick in your throat?
This energy trace isn't all you're looking for, is it?
I'm searching for someone. I find the energy trace, I find her.
Perhaps we ought to pool our resources. 2 heads and so on.
Maybe I should let you stick close. Just to keep an eye on you.
I was just thinking the same thing about you.
I must thank the makers for the gift of the silver. Without it, I am certain I would have perished from the Hazel.
The silver?
A curative compound, Doctor. Many lives have been saved through the benefits of the silver.
Tanata! You're alive!
Sarah, I thought I'd never see you again.
While I hate to interrupt this touching moment, I must point out that we don't have time to stop and chat.
My Lord Merrill, it is a striking sight, is it not?
I've heard Magus Riga talk of the island's austere, barren grandeur, but now, to see it for myself.
This is only the precursor. When you lay your gaze on the heart, then you will truly be stirred. If you have a single shred of integrity, don't open the heart with ill intent. It has been sealed for millennia.
The great Riga, humbled. Why, that's made it all worthwhile.
I am awake. You will be improved.
No! No!
Kingdom of Silver was a 3-parter and a 1-part story released as a double-disc set, again still available through Big Finish. In this story, the androids have come to a tomb world, similar, to Telos. Only here we have a steampunk society. This is the tale of an android trying to get their hands on the cyber technology and destroy it. But the second story, 1 episode long, set many thousands of years later, is the Doctor coming across a robot rather than an android that has an android's memories. The Doctor accesses the android's memories and finds out what happened. This is a linking narrative between the first Cyberman story and the second. It's not necessary for you to hear any of these, but in order to make Cyberman 2 work to its fullest, you really need to have heard these other stories. Like I said, you don't need to have heard these, but as I'm saying, I haven't even touched on Cyberman 2 yet, and there is so much backstory. The Cybermen here are kind of the invasion-style Cybermen, with a touch of Tomb, which for me is when Cybermen were at their most glorious. These memories are dealt with by the 7th Doctor, and everything is hunky and dory, which brings us, rather neatly, to Cyberman 2, the whole purpose of this. In Cyberman 2, we depart from the West Wing version of space and time. We still keep the multiple narrative storytelling that was a benchmark of the first Cyberman series. But here we have a different writer who's taken the ideas from City of Silver and the concepts dealt with in the first Cyberman story and taken it in a more Terminator, more Blade Runner-y way, taking it back to the original, but also taking it much further. We have Earth who invaded. We also, of course, have the parallels and similarities with current culture. We have the whole being told by governments that we are being terrorised by terrorists in order to keep us in our place. It's hardly a new strategy, but it does seem to work here. You can look beyond the story and see the metaphors for our own world with far too much clarity. We may not have Cybermen in our midst, but we definitely have people who want us to be like us. People who will survive. I don't want to tell you how this ends, but the story isn't available individually. It must be bought collectively in one go. Because of that, of course, it is slightly cheaper and has a remarkably good cast. Worthy of note is Toby Hadoke, playing the apparently insane captain of the rescue ship. It did leave me wanting more. Perhaps one day there will be a Cyberman 3, but it will be a very different creature. The androids take a slightly more back seat, fixating almost primarily on simply one of the androids. Strong female characters aren't exactly ten a penny in Doctor Who, but they are aplenty round here. Yes, we have secondary, individual, normal people who are affected by an invasion by the back door. Taxi drivers and resistance workers can be seen at work here. Basically, it's a lovely ensemble piece. If you've got an exceptionally long journey, or you just want to invest in something with a bit more teeth than your normal fare, then this is a great alternative to your normal listening. It's got a 5th disc, which has some lovely interviews and some lovely background on this and all of the Cyberman stories so far. So yes, buy Cyberman 2. You can listen to it by itself, but if you really want to get the best out of these stories, listen to them all. That's Sword of Orion, Cyberman 1, City of Silver, and then Cyberman 2. This podcast is already becoming quite long, so there won't be a Whostrology this week. That's not to say I don't have some ready to read out, but let's face it, I'm sure you'd rather listen to the interview with Matt Smith that was on Radio 2 in England in the afternoon last week. Following the interview and the closing credits, I normally put something fairly jokey on the end. However, Graham Crowden passed away very recently. The man who was Soldied, the man who was almost the 4th Doctor, one of Britain's greatest character actors and perceived oddballs. I'm going to close with a speech taken from one of his films that may or may not ring some bells with you. So until next time, be seeing you.
Hello, this is Nick Briggs, and you're listening to Tin Dog Podcast.
Matt Smith and Karen Gillan are here, and I don't know if you know.
Right, in the afternoon.
Oh, they were just about a minute late, and I said, well, you could have come in the TARDIS and you'd have been early. And then they didn't like that, did they, really?
They didn't run with you, let's put it that way. They didn't run with that one.
No, didn't run with that. In January 2009, actor Matt Smith here was announced as the successor to David Tennant, making him the youngest ever actor at just 12 years old to take the role of Doctor Who. He was relatively unknown to the general public when he was cast. His previous biggest TV role had been a parliamentary researcher in the 2007 BBC Two drama Party Animals. Then, Karen Gillan beat dozens of hopefuls to land the role of the Doctor's new companion, following in the footsteps of Billy Piper, Freema Egerman and Catherine Tate. So, how are you both doing today? All right, everything okay?
We're quite happy, aren't we?
Yeah, like having a happy day.
Yeah.
What's it been like so far? I mean, we're just going to mention the new DVD and Blu-ray. Here it is, the first series. Karen, it must have been just terrifying for you.
Yeah, it was, when you think about it. But you don't don't always think about it in that way. I don't know. I think you've just got to be positive about it, and that's what I tried to do. So there were moments of terror, but then for the most part, it was fun.
What did you think when they all said, "Oh my goodness, she's too sexy"?
No, I mean, there are worse things to be said about you, I guess. But I think that was just started off in the press. I don't think it was actually from the audience themselves.
No, it wasn't. I mean, the press just said, "Oh, look, here she is, too sexy. Should the doctor be running around with a companion like that?" and all the rest of us.
Absolutely.
And you said yes.
Well, listen, there have been companions in Tarzanian leotards and
they've
things.
always been like that.
And they should, it's not new. And why not celebrate women and sexiness and all the rest of it? And
what's wrong with it?
I mean, I just can't see how that mud stuck, really, to be honest.
Moving on from that.
So, Matt, what's it been like for you? I mean, were you trepidatious at the start, thinking, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to be typecast for hereinafter"? Or did you think, well, look, this is just another role? Or, I mean, what was your whole kind of take on it?
No, I mean, I never had any concerns about being typecast, because I hope that I'm a versatile enough actor to sort of never be typecast. I was just enthused and thrilled and proud to be taking on such a brilliant part. I mean, I suppose with hindsight, I probably had trepidations about... Because it was impossible not to sort of be aware of the history and heritage and the success of David and Julie and Russell and... But thankfully David was very gracious and lovely. He's a lovely man, and he made that transition very easy for me. So it was just, it was like a leap of faith, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we had to hold hands and go,
oh,
people like us and don't hate us.
Yeah.
Do you remember doing the first scene?
Yes, like it was
clear
yesterday.
as day. Where was it?
On a beach.
It was
with
raining.
The TARDIS.
The tide was coming in. We had till 3 o'clock.
Every single person who worked on the show came down.
Yeah, it was torrential
to judge
rain.
us.
To judge us, they were all judging. And it was surreal. It was completely surreal, wasn't it?
Yeah, the most surreal thing.
Did you get it in one take?
No.
Yes.
No, we didn't.
I always
I'm sorry.
do.
Yeah.
One take wonder.
I'm not sure if that was a yes or a no.
No, I really didn't.
But had you both been huge fans of the series as you were growing up as kids? And who was your doctor?
Well, sadly,
I didn't have one.
We were part of the barren age where it wasn't on television.
Yeah. I knew
Stupidly
about
off.
it.
You knew about it and you'd seen
about
reruns.
it, and I knew that the doctor wore a scarf and stuff like that.
Tom Baker was your doctor.
Well, the one that I know, yeah.
My first memory is William Hartnell being followed down a corridor.
Really?
How can you possibly remember that?
Well, just it being repeated on TV.
I was going to say, that was 1962.
I don't remember that.
Well,
you liar.
I'm actually 40. No, and I'm not. It's. I suppose it only really came back into my ethos with Chris Eccleston.
How did you keep away from, Matt, having the personality and the traits of some of the other doctors? How do you keep away from that, you know, the little eccentricities?
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose that, like anything artistic, it has to be your version of whatever material it is that you're trying to articulate, and so I tried to be as sort of brave and courageous with my own instincts as I could.
Yeah. He's got a great sense of humour, but a different sense of humour from the last two doctors, interestingly enough.
Oh, really? Well, that's an interesting
I think
observation.
your humour is a little less knowing.
Really?
Yeah.
A bit more naive.
Yeah.
Is that because of his age, or...?
No, just because, well, he's got this, like, childlike quality, and he doesn't realise when he's being funny. I just thought I'd put that out there.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I mean, I guess every actor has their way of being funny. My heroes, funny-wise, are Peter Sellers and Peter Cook and people like that. And I don't know if I've been influenced by them throughout the years. The Pink Panthers certainly influenced me physically, and I hope it's quite a physical humour.
Let's do a clip from the new DVD and Blu-ray, and then we'll come back and do some more. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Woo! Yes, sir.
Amy, tell him.
Tell him what?
About the Daleks.
What would I know about the Daleks?
Everything. They invaded your world, remember? Planets in the sky. You don't forget that. Amy, tell me you remember the Daleks.
No, sorry.
That's not possible.
I met you.
Matt Smith and Karen Gillan are with us, the stars of Doctor Who. All right, Karen, favourite all-time monsters in Doctor Who?
Okay, now, until, like, sort of a few weeks ago, it was always the Weeping Angels. We're filming something at the moment that I can't tell you about, but it involves the best monsters so
I
far.
love how I just gave that answer to the Australian interview about 2 hours ago.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's true though.
We weren't in the same room, so I didn't steal that.
So it's true.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so exciting.
It's the best one. It is.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you give us any clues?
We can tell you that it's... no, we can't really.
No, you can't.
Come on, a hint. No.
Nah.
No
way.
It's top secret.
You've got to watch it.
See, mine are the Cybermen, I think, are great because they've never changed, and I love the new... I love that. I mean, where do you get that sound? I like that sound
There's
effect
some
from
cool
us.
sounds, actually, on this new series.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well,
they're all real anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Them Daleks are good as well, aren't they, eh?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, you've got to love a Dalek.
Yeah,
if you like
classic.
Yeah. I can't see how they can come back now. I mean, can they come back one more time?
Well, you know, I think the great thing about the Daleks, or actually the dastardly thing about the Daleks, is that they are, to a certain degree, invincible, it would seem.
Because they've been wiped out twice completely in the last 2 series, haven't they?
Completely wiped out, and then lo and behold...
Who's back?
We ran out of money, we think, let's use a Dalek.
There's loads in the prop store.
Yeah, there's loads in the prop store. People love that when they come to the prop store.
Yeah, there's a cool
the
prop
Dalek
store.
area.
Yeah.
Just a room full of
So we may
monsters.
see them again.
Yeah. Maybe
Maybe not.
Anything.
This is all top secret.
Do you think that you two will travel in time for 1 more series, 2 more series, 3 more series? How does it go? I mean, do you know how many series you're going to do in advance, or what?
For me, it goes series by series. So, I don't know. I could be there for another series, or I could not be there for another series.
I'm the same. I take it series by series, so it's a case of...
Stephen Moffat just doesn't let anything slip.
We don't even know what's happening in the next episodes.
No.
Until we get them a week before we start shooting them.
Yeah.
Let alone what's happening at the end of the series. So we only know what we've shot.
Really? So, you have like maybe 4 or 5 days to learn the stuff.
Yeah. Well, sometimes less.
Maybe like a day.
Yeah. That's why there is no, it's just set, home, line, learn.
Yeah.
Set, home,
There's
line,
a routine
learn.
to it.
Swim, maybe. Set, home, swim.
Yeah, you
line,
started
learn.
swimming.
I know.
Do you actually live in Cardiff now, then?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
wow.
live in Cardiff, or you just stay in
For 9
Cardiff during
months,
the filming? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's 9
it's
months
9
of
months.
the year, so it's the
We
majority
get back
of
to
the year.
London twice a month.
And do you have any input whatsoever into the scripts and into what happens for your characters, to your characters?
No, it's more just input in terms of how you play things.
Yeah, and got Stephen, who's such a genius, and so we
I'm not
let
gonna
him...
start tampering
No,
with that.
don't mess with the best, because the best don't mess.
Oh, yeah.
Can I just say, details of this year's Doctor Who Christmas special were announced in the summer, and maybe you can tell us a bit about it. It's a twist on Dickens' Christmas Carol, with guest stars Michael Gambon and Catherine Jenkins.
Jenkers!
Hey, does she have a little, like she sings in the TARDIS?
She
Does a bit of singing.
And she gets that
And
great
it's
big
good,
voice.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, it's incredible. And she makes her acting debut.
Yeah.
Is she
Very
dressed as
good.
a French maid, like Kylie?
Sadly not.
No. Unfortunately,
Have a word with Mr. Moffat, then.
She is dressed rather... She looks very beautiful in it, doesn't
beautiful,
she?
almost angelic.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But you're not going to tell us about the plot, are you?
No.
It's a time-travelling twist on a Christmas Carol.
Thanks, Matt. That's given us a lot of insight.
There's a lot of what you... I basically just repeated what you told me. Haven't I?
He just said that.
That's a good technique, though. Try that somewhere else.
It's a good idea. I should look forward to it.
Say something with not actually saying anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Tell us about this DVD a little bit, if you can. This is Series 5. What's in there?
We've got all the episodes. There's also the monster files, and then you've got all the outtakes, which I'm really looking forward to.
We haven't seen any of the bloopers.
Yeah,
but,
they'll be fun, won't they? And then we've got
yeah.
deleted scenes.
We've also filmed special scenes for the DVD called Meanwhile in the TARDIS.
Meanwhile in the
And
TARDIS.
it's basically just on a day when there's no adventure to be had and they're just on the TARDIS. It's like,
just
what happens?
Amy and the Doctor
what do
hanging
they do?
out.
What do they talk
do?
about?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite interesting.
And that's just you guys ad-libbing, or...?
No, it was scripted.
Stephen. We should watch that tonight, actually.
Yeah, let's do that.
I suppose that in the TARDIS, you don't get to watch any television, live television, like you couldn't see the X Factor, unless you'd come back to 2010.
Yeah.
So you'd have to watch Blu-ray and DVD anyway.
Potentially, in the TARDIS, you could influence the X Factor.
Yeah, excuse me, they already know who's won. They whipped ahead, back down,
Yeah.
come back. Rebecca, don't tell us, don't tell us. No,
Rebecca's won, yeah.
Surely Wagner.
Do you know what?
Wagner's
I
a legend.
would love Wagner to win.
Listen, very nice to see you. Series 5 of Doctor Who starring Matt Smith here and Karen Gillan is available now. It's on DVD and Blu-ray, and we'll wrap it up because we're not going to get any further information.
Oh, no.
But we've
We're
got
the
enough.
most boring guests ever, aren't we?
No, not at all. No, you were absolutely brilliant. Matt and Karen, everybody. Thank you very much.
You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
Friends, fellow members of the human race, we are gathered here for a purpose. Let us look together at mankind. What do we see? We see mastery. What wonders mankind can perform. He can cross oceans and continents today as easily as our grandfathers crossed the street. Tomorrow he will as easily cross the vast territories of space. He can make deserts fertile and plant cabbages on the moon. And what does man choose? Alone among the creatures of this world, the human race chooses to annihilate itself. Since the last world conflict ended, there has not been one day in which human beings have not been slaughtering or wounding one another in 230 different wars. And man breeds as recklessly as he lays waste. By the end of the century, the population of the world will have tripled. 2/3 of our plant species will have been destroyed. 55% of the animal kingdom, and 70% of our mineral resources. Out of every 100 human beings now living, 80 will die without ever knowing what it feels like to be fully nourished, while a tiny minority indulge themselves in absurd and extravagant luxury. A motion picture entertainer of North America will receive as much money in a month as would feed a starving South American tribe for 100 years. We waste, we destroy, and we cling like savages to our superstitions. We give power to leaders of state and church as prejudiced and small-minded as ourselves, who squander our resources on instruments of destruction, while millions continue to suffer and go hungry, condemned forever to lives of ignorance and deprivation. And why is this? It is because mankind has denied intelligence, the unique glory of our species. The human brain. Man is entering an era of infinite possibility, still imprisoned in a feeble, inefficient body, still manacled by primitive notions of morality which have no place in an age of science, still powered by a brain that has hardly developed since the species emerged from the caves. Only a new intelligence can save mankind. Only a new human being of pure brain can lead man forward into the new era. I do not speak of dreams. Such a being exists already. I have created it. It is here, now. Prepare yourselves to meet the human of the future. Neither man nor woman greater than either. I have given it a name. Genesis. Birth. A new birth. A new beginning for mankind. People of today, behold your future. 100,000 times more powerful than your brain or mine. And in 5 years' time, this brain will be out of date. This spongy, finite, vulnerable substance will be replaced by a silicon chip 1/8 of a millimeter square. Within 15 years, it will be possible to contain the entire world of Homo sapiens in a matchbox. You see the face of the future. Now, hear its voice.
What a piece of work is a man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable, in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god, how like a god, how like a god, how like a god, how like